A warm welcome, I'm the Italian Dev and on my channel I upload weekly web dev tutorial videos. Today we are gonna see how to authenticate Solana users with a Phantom wallet in a Next.js application. We will handle this Web3 authentication flow with Moralis. If you don't know anything about Moralis, don't worry, I will show you how to create a brand new server for free and how to connect Moralis to a Next.js web application. But if you want to know more about it, I've uploaded an in-depth video tutorial in which I'll show you how to build from scratch a fully functional Web3 dashboard. I'll leave the link in the description down below. Enough said, let's go straight into the code. Let's start by creating a new Next.js application, so open your terminal window and type the command npx create next app, and I'm gonna call this project Solana Auth. Now let's wait for the dependency to be installed. Now that all the dependencies are installed, let me clear the terminal, navigate inside our newly created folder, so Solana Auth, and open this project with Visual Studio Code. The first thing I usually do is to remove all the folders and files that I don't need, so will not have any style for this application, because all our focus will be to the Web3 technical stuff, and so to integrate the Solana authentication with Moralis inside the Next.js application. So I removed the API folder, the style folder inside the app.js. Let's remove this import since the style function, the style folder is not in our project anymore. Let's remove all this import up right here and also all this boilerplate code. So let's return for now just to test if our basic Next.js application is working, a simple div with a paragraph tag inside it and an hello world text. So we can now open our Visual Studio Code integrated terminal and type the command npm run dev to spin up the Next.js server that will serve our Next.js application under localhost 3000. Open your browser and type localhost 3000 to see if everything is working fine. Cool, we have our basic Next.js application perfectly working. So now we can move to the moralis.io website where the Web3 magic will happen. If you don't have an account, you can sign up here for free. Let me just maximize the window. I already have one, so I'm gonna click login with my credential if the autocomplete works. Okay, click the login button and we are now inside the Moralis dashboard. As you can see, I have already a test server. It's like my playground in which I play with all the features that Moralis provide to us. But instead, to use this test server that I already have, I will show how easily, time-saving, and effortless is to create a new server with Moralis. Believe me, it takes just few clicks and few seconds. As you can see, we have a create a new server button right here. Click on it. We are gonna choose the testnet server since we are in, let's say, development mode and we don't wanna waste by error and by any means real money. So click test server. Let's call this Moralis instance I already created in the past one called Solana Auth. So I'm gonna choose again Solana Auth for this one. As region, choose the place nearest to you. I'm gonna choose Frankfurt. Testnet again, and it's okay to select the Ringby test network. Now click a distance, and as you can see, we have a complete Web3, let's call Web3 backend, Web3 infrastructure ready to be scaled. because what we have now is a server that is running, and also if you click to dashboard, we also have a Mongo database already configured. For now we have just three classes, the session 1, the role, and the user class. This user is the one, let's say the admin user, and is the one you provided to log in to Moralis. So you are the admin, and right now we have just one user. So now that the Moralis server is fired up, we have to find a way to glue, to connect this Moralis backend to our Next.js application. And there is a very powerful package that will handle all this stuff for us. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, stop the terminal, and type npm install react Moralis. React Moralis will be our glue to link our Next.js front-end web application to the Moralis backend we have just created. So now that React Moralis is correctly installed, we can navigate inside _app.js and bring inside this component the Moralis provider from React Moralis. Now we can wrap our entire application with this Moralis provider. So to have a provider to be consumed inside all the components we have. Now we have just a single route, so a single on-page component. So when this provider will be correctly set up, we can consume this provider inside here, and so to use hooks to keep track of our session, to have methods, useful methods, to have values, and everything we need to easily inject Web3 inside our Next.js web application. Now this Moralis provider, to correctly work, needs two props, an application ID and a server URL. Now you may ask where we are gonna grab these values. Easy. Let's go back to the Moralis admin dashboard, and we want to connect to this server, so click the View Details button, and here you have all the server details. We don't need all of them. Look here, you have the IP address of the MongoDB that I showed you before. We just need the server URL value and application ID value. As always, when we have value like this, best practice say that we need to store them in an environment variable to be consistent. So let's create a new file in Next.js. Is not only .env but is .env.local. Perfect. And let's prefix these two environment variable with the next public prefix, so to let Next.js know that this environment variable are safe to be shown and to be public, so as the prefix say, to the browser. So now let's start by the next public app ID, and here server URL. So we can just do now a little of copy-paste work. Let's start by the server URL and paste it right here. And now go back and grab the application ID and paste it right here. So now we have our environment variables set up, so we can go back to _app.js and give to this Moralis provider all the tools, let's say tools, all the values he needs to connect this Next.js application to the Moralis server. So app ID is equal to process.env environment dot copy paste again, so to avoid any typo. Okay, and then server URL again, process.env dot copy paste again. Cool. So now we can fire up again the Next.js server, so to load this environment variable inside our application. So npm run dev, and as you can see, the environment variables are loaded from the file we created. There is this annoying warning now, and I think Moralis will solve this in the future, asking to install the Web3 connector package, but we don't need this in this application, and I will just let this warning scream inside my console because I don't need this package and I will not install it. So we can go back to our browser, refresh the page, and have our hello world correctly showing up. So it means that we didn't do any kind of error. So now we can start to consume this provider, and so we can start to think to our authentication flow. Usually, let's say always, an authentication flow works in such a way that if I am authenticated, I have some components showing up. If not, I have others showing up on my web page. Since we have, as I said before, just a single component, the on-page component, and so one route, we will do all the logic inside here. So we can start to consume the Moralis provider, so to grab that value we need to check if a user is authenticated or not from the use Moralis sook. I have the auto import extension in Visual Studio Code, and so as you can see, we have use Moralis cook imported from React Moralis. From here we can start destructuring a value that will allow us, a Boolean value that will allow us if now let's restrict this authentication flow only to Solana user, but you can do it, as you can see later. You have all the tools to authenticate user from MetaMask, Binance Chain, Ethereum Chain, Elrond Chain, and so on. But now let's focus on Solana. So we can destructor from use Moralis. This is authenticated Boolean value. As you can see, thanks to TypeScript here, is authenticated if is of type of Boolean. So what you can say is if is not authenticated, return and so show something, what? A button to log in. So let's type button login, else just return for now a simple welcome message. Now we didn't link to this button, we didn't give to this button any action, so it's not able to do anything right now, but just to see if what we did is right. So let's console log to our console, this is authenticated value, so to check if everything is working fine. So as you can see, we don't have, before we had the hello world message, but now we have a login button, so this sounds okay. So it could mean that we did not bad stuff before, but we did the right things. Well, let's go to the console, look, we have false. So now we are able to recognize if a particular user is authenticated or not. So we can go back to Visual Studio Code and give now to this button the power to authenticate user. So let me change this login. Let's just call this auth, just to give the perception of authentication. And we can grab again from use Moralis This time not a value but a method. Which one? Authenticate. So we can authenticate our user. So inside our button HTML tag, on the onClick JSX attribute, we can pass an anonymous callback function and call inside here this authenticate method, and pass to this authenticate method an option object with the type key, so to specify which type. And as you can see, we have some blockchain names showing up right here. Polkadot, Kusama, Erron. You don't see Solana here because at the time of recording right now, the Solana integration is in beta mode and will be stable in the future. But it's working really fine as I tested till now. So now this button has the capability to authenticate my user, my Solana user, with the Phantom wallet. Just with, look, these few lines of code that Moralis provided with the append server ID, and thanks to the Moralis hook, this method authenticate user, and this authenticated to understand if a user is authenticated or not. So we can go back to our browser. Look, it still say false. Now I have in Brave browser the Phantom extension, that is the most commonly used wallet for the Solana blockchain. And if I click Auth, look what happened. A Phantom wallet pop-up will show up. Let me enter my password to log in to this Phantom wallet. And as you can see now, I have a signature request from the localhost 3000 URL with the signed message saying Moralis authentication and the signature ID, so to track this sign request and so this sign message action on the blockchain, Solana blockchain. If I click approve, look what happened. Now it's authenticating, and the is authenticated value from false became true, and I have a welcome message showing up right here. And if I navigate now to the Moralis admin dashboard, click this toggle button, let me maximize the window. Now I have number of user 2, before was just 1, the admin user. If I click this dashboard button, I can navigate directly inside the MongoDB panel dashboard, where we have this class and we have this underscore sol address with the object ID string created at, and also a pointer. A pointer means this row right here, this value, is linked to the user class and points to this object ID value right here. So just memorize these 4 characters here, SWFB. If I navigate now inside the user class, look what I have right here, SWFB object ID. So this is saved for us under the hood by Moralis inside our database, the user that the Solana user, me, that just authenticated with Phantom Web3 to this decentralized web application. We have auth data and also a username created that, and also the Solana address. Look, F106, let me open so to read the last 4 characters, ZY5, ZYOSR. Let me open the Phantom wallet. F1, look, YOSR. Really amazing, with just few lines of code. So now that we know how to authenticate, we can grab some value for this authenticated Solana user. And how to do it? Again, go up to the, just let me give more space, to this use Moralis cook and grab the user object. So we have a user right now. So if we are authenticated, we can come up here down below and show something to the user. Instead of say welcome nothing, we can say welcome dear and pass a dynamic value, a JavaScript value, user.get username method that is append to this user object. Now if I save and go back to the Brave browser, I have welcome dear 3ml. We have a randomly generated string because Moralis for us generated this random string as username. I will show in a few minutes how to change this username and customize it. But now, just to complete an authentication flow, what do we need? A logout button, because now we know how to auth, and also we know how to keep this session alive. Look, if I close this tab and open a new one, again browsing to localhost 3000, look, I'm still connected because we are also keeping track and taking this session alive since we don't log out. How? Again, Moralis is doing everything for us. If you open the Developer Tools tabs and navigates under the Application panel, inside the local storage, if you click to localhost 3000, remember what I showed you? This object under Auth Data, this one is saved in the local storage. Look, right here. Auth Data, and Moralis has all the data he needs to keep this session alive. Class name underscore user, created at timestamp, object ID that is related to this particular user. We have a session token and also Sol accounts, an array if Solana accounts, because we can also link multiple Solana wallet to just a particular user, because you know you can create many Solana address in Fandom wallet, and also this Sol address value and the username, as I said before. So now we can remove, we need to find a way to remove the data from the local storage so to unauthenticate the user. Again, go to the use Moralis hook and now destructure a new method called logout. Look how simple is that. Now we can go right down here, create a new button saying logout, and on the onClick JSX attribute, now call logout. Save, go back into Brave browser, our amazing logout button is showing up, and I can just click and look what happened. Take a look right here to this auth data saved to local storage. Logout, everything disappears. False is showing up, we are not authenticated anymore, and the auth button is now showing up again. So we are now not authenticated to this decentralized application as a Solana user. Really amazing. So now that we have, with just few lines of code and just few clicks on the Moralis website, a decentralized application with the Solana authentication thanks to the Phantom wallet that allow us, so the Phantom wallet is just allowing this front-end application to talk to the Solana blockchain and authenticate the user, completely working. What we can do is to add a bit of soul to this application, allow an authenticated user to change its username from the front end. So just under the welcome message, let's grab also to show something else. Phantom wallet address, and again we can use the user object, call the get method. In this case, what do we need? Look, we need this value right here. Where is this value? Right here. Sole address. So we can call here, go and grab the sole address for me. Save, back to the browser, auth. Now the Phantom wallet pop-up is showing up, and look, we have the Phantom wallet address at our disposal on our front-end web application. Now let's just change this username just as a showcase. So let's create a form here inside the self-closing input tag. Let's give a placeholder with example. You can just add the Italian dev. Then let's control this input passing value, and we will use here React useState to keep track of this form application to this particular input. Let's give the input value that we will create, and again on the not can play change attribute. Now let's take the event and set input value e.target.value. So now it's time to go up right here under the Moralis hook. Let's create a new React state. Let's call how we called down inside the input. So input value and set input value is equal to what? A new React state out import, and let's start by passing an empty string. So now that we are able to take and track what the user input inside this form, let's now add a button tag with a change username text. Let's give this button an attribute type of submit. So we can now navigate here up to the form tag and pass the onSubmit attribute. Again, take the event. So to prevent the default behavior of a HTML form, so in this case we'll not post anything because we want to perform some other action. And what action won't we perform? Go back to use Moralis hook and let's grab another method, set user data, that will allow us to set user data related to their wallet address. So let's do just a simple check, but it's not the main subject of this video. And let's say if input value dot trim is not equal to an empty string, so if we have a value that is not an empty string, let's call a set user data and pass as an object. Here we can pass email, phone number and other values, but for now let's just pass the username key and assign to this username key the value of input value. Let's save and look what happened now. We have this simple form. As you can see now, we have this randomly generated username, and if we type what we can type. Let's exploit the placeholder. We can type the Italian dev, change username, and look what happened. Welcome, dear the Italian dev. This is now not only changing the value and saving it to the database, as you can say, as you can easily check here. Let me refresh this tab. And here, look, username, we have no more the randomly generated string, but we have the username we have chosen right now. And this also showing up here thanks to the Moralis hook that keeps track of this Solana wallet address session that is saved right in our local storage. Amazing. Now, just let me log out. And there is something else that we can add just to make our authentication flow a little bit more fancy. We can disable each of this button we have right here, again making advantage from some boolean values that are destructed from the use Moralis hook. Look what we have. Here we have an authenticate method that is fired up by this button. So under authenticate we can grab a boolean that is authenticating. And so what we can define to this button is a new attribute, disable, and we can say this button is disabled when, if the user is authenticating. So let's just copy and paste right here. Then, which other method we have? Set user data that is fired up by this button that tells this form to submit the data we are passing. So we can disable this button when the user is updating. So is updating its data. So is user updating. So we have now this boolean value. We can go to this button right here and pass again the disable JSX attribute and say, please disable this button if the user is updating. What we have then? Logout method. So we can come right here, just under logout to be more consistent, and so to keep their related value near each other, we can say is logging out. Again, we have another boolean value that tell us if user is logging out or not, and so what we can do? We can disable this button and pass is logging out. Let's test just these features we added. Look what happened now. Let me minimize, if not the phantom pop-up will take the entire screen. Look, the auth button. I'm clicking and now it's disabled. Why? Because it's trying to authenticate. Sign message, Moralis authentication, approve. So I can prove this transaction on the Solana blockchain, and now I am authenticated. Log out, disabled because it's logging out, and now auth. Amazing. Really, the Moralis ecosystem is growing day by day and is allowing us to do everything we want with the Web3 related stuff, and is making our developer life easier and less time consuming in respect to the Web3. Look, another thing we can do, and I can show more and more and more. I promise you, it's just the last thing I can do. I will show you, sorry, but I can do more and more. Here in this authenticate object, I have this type sol option. I can pass now sign-in message to add more personalization. Let's say I have a production website that is called, I don't know, let's say the Italian Dev Dashboard is asking you to sign this transaction. So is asking you to auth with Phantom Wallet. look if I save now. Let's go back to our application. If I click Auth, look what happened now in this Phantom Wallet pop-up. Under sign message, we don't have any more Moralis authentication. We have what we just typed. The Italian Dev Dashboard is asking you to auth with Phantom Wallet. Approve. And everything works as expected. So I think we can close this video now. I'm really happy to bring you this content on the Moralis ecosystem. So I just showed you how to authenticate a Solana user into your Next.js front-end web application. And if you would like to see more video on the Moralis ecosystem and you have the application idea we can build together, just let me know in the comment down section below. And if you like this type of content and if you would like to see more and help me and my channel grow, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Bye bye, the Italian Dev.